Good afternoon. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of The Edge on IC Radio, your source for news and entertainment. You can find us on television as well, Channel 182 on Charter Communications, and Abundance Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast, netsnewsnetwork.net. If you would like to send an email, send it to Donna at donnasedge.com. It's right there on the screen as well. Thank you again so much for watching. So I'm getting a lot of emails from folks who are talking about their tomatoes not ripening. And we're all in that same ship, I'm just telling you, because mine aren't either. And I think it has a lot to do with we've had some really strange weather. You know, we had colder weather a lot longer than we're used to for the spring part, and then we had a very late frost. And then the weather is jumping. It's going either too hot, like towards 100 that way, and you know, tomatoes just not going to ripen when it's 100 degrees. So there is this range in temperature on which tomatoes are going to ripen. So I'm going to show you a video. This is my garden. You know, we have the block gardens that we're using, and yes, last year it was like, you know, the tomatoes had already started ripening, and I was already making salsa. I was running around trying to figure out what to do with all the tomatoes. A lot of tomatoes, actually more than ever before. But again, they're still green. So take a look at mine. Let's see if yours looks anything like mine. Okay, tomatoes. Tomatoes are everywhere. Some of them are blushing. Some of them are about ready to be picked, but a lot of them are still green. What I'm going to do, I've counted way over 100 of these Romas. Let's go ahead and make this, turn it the other way. There we go. Let's go this way. So as you can see, we have tomatoes everywhere. And they are green. There's a bunch of my Romas. I love the Romas in my salsa. There are a couple of big boys right down there. I don't know if you can see them. Here we go. Let's put it just a little bit closer. There we go. So they are over there by themselves. So I want these things to hurry up and turn green because I want tomato sandwiches. Okay? And I know I've got to let the process happen, because if you get them too early, you know, the sun has to work with it. But our weather has just been really strange this year. More Romas. There they are. And that's a big old pretty one right there. I can't wait to put that one on a sandwich. That's going to be awesome. And here we go. Look, just packaged, just full of Romas. Now, I think the reason I have so many is I prune all through the summer season. Okay, it's not just for trees in the fall time. Look at all of those. That's going to make some awesome salsa. So I just wanted to come out here and just kind of do a little video and let you see. There's the rooster. He gets jealous. He wants all the attention. But anyway, there are tomatoes growing everywhere. What are we going to do to speed up this process? Or is there anything you can do? You just have to let nature take its course. We're going to find out. So you see what I'm talking about? Lots of tomatoes. I mean, I'm talking a huge, huge harvest of tomatoes, just like you, but they're not ripening. So there is some hope. And by the way, most of all you have to do is just wait, just have a little bit of patience. Just because it doesn't happen exactly like it did last year doesn't mean that you're losing tomatoes at all. So I found a good article, and I love this website, thegardeningcook.com. thegardeningcook.com, and that's where you're going to find this. So there are 13 tips. I'm going to jump right in there so we have plenty of time. 13 tips for ripening tomatoes on the vine, because that's your best tomato. So it's about the time of the year. She says that she gets a lot of questions about ripening tomatoes on the vine. She has written an article also on how to ripen tomatoes indoors. But now it's time to see if we can hurry things up on the vine itself. And those are the best ones. That's why when you go to the grocery store and you buy tomatoes right now, they're not quite like your tomatoes. So nothing is quite as frustrating, and I'm there too, just like you, as tomato plants that are full of green tomatoes that refuse to turn red. As irritating as the waiting for red tomatoes can be, there are actually some things that we can do to speed up the process. So many things, from optimal growing temperatures to the variety of tomato you planted and how well you have pruned. That's key right there. The tomato plant will determine when your tomatoes will start to ripen. And so I've done all the pruning. I know, you know, about that's why I have so many tomatoes, because I have been pruning like I'm supposed to do. Now, is fall quickly approaching? Are you about to leave for a trip soon? Then you're likely to be stuck wondering how to turn green tomatoes red. So let's just we're going to find out how to do that. I promise you, I'm right here for you. So here is the question. when do tomatoes turn red? So many factors come into play in determining why tomatoes won't turn red. Now, in general, the fruit on your tomato plant should begin turning red about 6 to 8 weeks after the flowers have been pollinated. And mine most certainly are. I mean, I have bees all over the place. My honey bees and the regular bees, butterflies, everything is actually going out there and they're pollinating our plants. However, the variety of tomato that you planted is a big part of when they start to ripen or they start turning red. Now, varieties with small fruit, such as the patio or those little cherry tomatoes that we love in our salads, they'll begin to ripen sooner than the larger varieties, such as the beefsteak tomato or my Romas that I use in my salsa every year. This is because larger tomatoes take longer to reach the grain mature stage, which is needed for the latter red stage. So this is what the author says. She says, I planted both determinate patio tomatoes and indeterminate beefsteak tomatoes this year, and my patio tomatoes are almost done, while the larger beefsteak variety are just getting to mature green. So they go through all these stages. First of all, they're going to be the smaller tomatoes, you know that, and then they're going to be this really darkish looking green. Then they start turning kind of, depending on the variety, then they start turning kind of a limey looking color green, almost a yellowy, before they start turning red or pink. I have some pink Russians out there that my friend from Baker's Farm, Cheryl Baker, gave me. Okay, now outside temperatures also play a huge part in ripening the tomatoes. And we know that because, again, the weather has been a little up and down, a little weird. So the tomatoes produce carotene and lycopene. These are substances that make a tomato turn red. Now, when the temperature ranges from 50 to 85 degrees, that's your ripening stage right there. Now, colder than 50 degrees, the tomatoes are going to stay green, and warmer than 85, and we've had quite a few of those days, the production of carotene and lycopene stops. Now, this fact has been born out of her garden, she says, so very high temperatures can also cause yellow leaves on the tomato plants. And let me mention this, too, about a plant. We've been through this cycle before, but I think it's worth mentioning again. So you've got actually 4 parts to the tomato plant. I'm going to use 4. Because you have the root system, that has to be good. Then you have the stem, okay? Your leaves are your 3rd part, and then the fruit is going to be the 4th part. Now, you can actually tell the health of a plant through the leaves. If they start turning yellowy, if they're kind of slitting, they just don't look quite right. It could mean they just need more oxygen, so you can go ahead and give them some food and feed them just like your little tender babies, okay? However, the leaves on my tomatoes, and you saw that from the film clip there, the tomatoes are still the leaves are just as green as they can be, so there's not a problem with the health. We all know that it's temperature, okay? Now, the patio tomatoes, she said, were planted sooner, and they had a chance to stay in the ideal temperature, while the larger tomatoes were planted later, and it's very hot right now, and she said so they stayed green. Now, tomato ripening is also triggered by a chemical called ethylene. This chemical is odorless, it's tasteless, and it's invisible to the eye, but when the tomato reaches the green mature stage, it will start to produce ethylene, and the tomato will start to turn red. That's what you're waiting on. So ethylene is added by distributors of retail tomatoes to artificially turn green tomatoes red, but this results in that mealy texture that you get when you buy them from the grocery store, which I don't like. It's not good on a tomato sandwich. And which is why but our vine ripe tomatoes are not done that way, so that's why they taste so good, and that's why they slice, and that's why they're meaty and they taste really good. Now, there are so many tips to turning tomatoes red off the vine, include putting the tomatoes in a bag with a ripe banana, or you can use an apple even to produce this ethylene gas. Now, overstressed tomato plants can also have a problem turning tomatoes red. Now, when a plant is using up too much of its energy into growing leaves and flowers, it won't have a whole lot of energy left to turn those green tomatoes red. So we're going to deal with this in some of these tips. What time is it? Oh, we got plenty of time. Okay, so while we can't force them to ripen on the vine, there are a few things that we can do to help the process. Topping a tomato plant, which is what I'm going to do this afternoon. And I'll do a little clip video, and then we'll do a show later on that. So topping a tomato plant is useful in ripening tomatoes on the vine. So most gardeners know about removing suckers from their tomato plants, but may not be familiar with topping the plant. So what does topping a tomato plant mean? Topping is a term for cutting off the main stem of the tomato plant. This will force your plant to stop wasting its energy on growing new leaves and setting new fruit, and it will push the energy towards ripening those green tomatoes while they're still on the plant. Now, when a tomato plant is topped, it directs all of its sugars to the remaining fruit. This way, the fruit will ripen faster. Also, any green fruit that you pick before frost will be likely to ripen indoors. We're not ready for frost yet, but who knows the way the weather has been lately. Topping the tomato plant also discourages the plant from adding new blossoms, which do not likely turn into mature fruit anyway, and it helps keep that plant focused. Now, the benefits of topping tomato plants are not just to ripen those green tomatoes more quickly. Allowing this plant to become really overgrown not only weakens the stem, that's when you start having the tomato plant, it's too big for its britches and it starts falling over, but it also stresses the plant, which can lead to low productivity, unripe fruit, and possible disease. Now, a good time to top off a tomato plant is when it grows to the top of the cage or its supporting stake. And I saw one yesterday. It's one of the Better Boys, I think. Just kind of glanced at it. I think that's the one it is. And I'm going to tell you, that thing is just really shot up. So I'm going to cut that off. And you're going to see me do that in the video a little bit later. Okay, now to top the tomato plant, what you want to do is cut off the vertical stem with shears, removing the stem about 1/4 inch above a spot where a side shoot grows from the main vertical stem. And I'm going to show you right here on this picture. I really meant to have this ready for you in the video. I don't know if you can see that, but I'll show you I'll do a picture so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. And I'll do it in the next couple of days so you can hurry up and see this. Okay, now you can even use the topped off stem. By the way, get a bonus here. You can use that topped off stem to propagate new tomato plants. This will give you a tomato plant to grow indoors over the winter months if you have a very sunny sill. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put it in a decent sized pot, and I'm going to put it right there at the patio, and you and I are going to keep a big watch on this and see what it does. Now, you can also add some shade for your tomato plants in very hot temperatures. If we start getting those feels like 100 degrees outside, we got to do something. Now, tomato plants naturally turn green mature stage by midsummer when the temperatures are above the ideal range for ripening. But this is the time gardeners start asking, why won't my tomatoes turn red? The answer is easy. It's mainly due to high temperatures. Now, above 85, and the production of carotene and lycopene stops, and these are needed for the tomatoes to ripen. You can't change the temperature in your yard now, but adding some form of shade over your tomato plants will help to lower that temperature in that area and might actually allow the plant to start ripening. I'm going to try that also. Oh, and this can also help to prevent sun scald, which can cause spotting on those tomato plant leaves. So this is what I've done. I save everything. I know it sounds like I'm a pack rat, but I'm really not, but I save things for a purpose. So I have some old sheer-like curtains. They're kind of sheer-like. They're very limp. You don't want anything that has plastic or polyester in it, okay? So this needs to be totally 100% cotton. Or you can use cheesecloth. So I have these tomato plants up kind of like on something that they can sit on. Okay, so Phil has built something for me in the garden for that. And then some tomatoes are actually growing, and they're growing up the side of the deck. So this is going to give me the perfect option to put these shears out there because they're going to get sunlight and everything's going to be cool. Okay? All right, you know what? Got to go into a commercial break. I'll be right back in just a minute.
You've been at this for 12 years. Why are you doing it?
Because God's children are not for sale.
Rated PG-13.
At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took MyPillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented MyPillow to bring you the best pillow in history, MyPillow 2.0. Because of all of you, MyPillow 2.0 has been a huge success, and now we're bringing you our best-selling Go Anywhere MyPillows with the same temperature-regulating technology. Made with my patented adjustable fill and brand-new cooling fabric, they're truly the next generation of MyPillow. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save over 60% on our MyPillow 2.0 4-pack special. You'll get 2 MyPillows and 2 Go Anywhere MyPillows, regular $259.92, now only $99.98. King size just $10 more. This is a limited time offer, so please order now.
Let Rhonda at Rhonda's Elite Tax LLC take the burden off you for all your tax needs. I know because Rhonda has been taking care of my business since 2013. I feel Rhonda works for me because she knows the direct questions to ask to better benefit my unique business in order for me to get back the biggest refund possible. Rhonda is an ongoing student, and she knows tax laws are in a constant change every year. Call 256-281-9903 for an appointment to take the dread out of getting your taxes done. Rhonda is located at 11968 U.S. Highway 431 in Boaz. Again, that number is 256-281-9903. And let Rhonda's Elite Tax LLC champion your personal and business taxes.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community
We're
College.
back. My name is Donna, and I am your host of The Edge on IC Radio, your source for news and entertainment. We're talking about tomatoes. We want the tomatoes to hurry up and ripen, please, quick. Okay, because I'm ready for a tomato sandwich. How about you? Okay, now, before we went into break, I talked about putting some kind of a shade. It doesn't need anything like dark coloring or anything like that. It needs to be white, as light as it can be. But this is another option. If you can't do that, you can place a plant umbrella over the plants when the temperatures are higher. Now, row covers draped over tomato cages also work. And a row cover can be anything. It can be an old curtain that, again, not polyester. It needs to be something that's really good cotton blend. And the reason you want that is so it can kind of, it lays. Okay, you don't want anything that's hard because that just doesn't lay. And what you're also thinking about is thunderstorms that can happen just like that. And that can blow the covers off. So you may want to get them and use some jumper cords or something, or maybe just some old cotton thread. Don't use anything wiry, okay, that could possibly harm the tomato plant. Okay, now harvesting tomatoes on a regular basis will also help to ripen the tomatoes on the vine. So pick any existing fruit as soon as it starts to show just a tinge of color. I'm in the habit of waiting too late. You know, I want them red when I take them off the vine, but when they've got a tinge of color, okay? So doing this allows the other fruit to actually get larger and gain color more quickly. Any fruit that is slightly ripe will continue ripening indoors, okay? Again, you can get a paper bag, not plastic. All it's going to do is sweat. You're going to ruin your tomatoes. Get a paper bag. And again, just put them in there, put a banana in there. If you want to hurry up, get a tomato sandwich by tomorrow, go ahead and put a tomato or maybe an apple in there. And it's just going to help with the gases that are needed to ripen that tomato. Okay, now another thing is you do not, let me mention this, okay? So we talked about, you know, as soon as it starts showing any kind of color. Now, as you do this, at the same time, you're cutting off the fruits, also cutting off their support vines, okay? Which means that support is going to go to the other tomatoes. Don't leave overripe fruit on the vine, okay? Doing so decreases productivity, and it also attracts those little critters, and we don't want that happening. And that also encourages disease. We don't want that to happen. Now, pinching off the suckers will give you a better crop of tomatoes as well. So tomato suckers are those little small shoots that sprout out, and I'll show that to you on a video on the next show. These suckers won't harm the plant, but they don't serve much of a purpose either. So other than making the plant larger in general. Pinching out tomato suckers can also be part of normal tomato pruning tasks that you do all season long anyway, which is what I've been doing. But if you haven't been doing this, start now. It's not too late, and you're not going to harm the plant. You're not going to harm the tomatoes. Suckers get their name because they suck the energy out of the plant. Tomato suckers produce new stems that compete with the other branches for the nutrients on that tomato plant. That's the biggest reason your tomatoes are not ripening right now. And probably if you don't have a whole lot of tomatoes, that could be a reason too. Tomatoes is what we call them right here. Now, if you leave them on the plant, you may get more fruit, but the tomatoes will be smaller and the plant will be more top heavy, requiring more efforts to stake it as the summer progresses. And when those old nasty storms comes through, there goes your plant. And sometimes when that happens, it's going to uproot your root system, and then guess what? You might as well throw that tomato plant away. Stake it up just in case it works, but odds are you've lost it. Now make sure you keep the suckers trimmed. The fruit will get more of that energy and will ripen faster, and it will be larger. That's probably the biggest reason you don't have your tomatoes. Now, to trim the suckers, use shears. If the suckers are big, or use your fingertips for the younger suckers. Just pinch them off at the base of the shoot. I like to use the shears because I don't want it splitting in any way that could cause a reason for the plant to get diseased. And I don't want that to happen. Okay, remove tomato plant flowers to send energy to green tomatoes. Now, as we've learned, it takes a few months for those tomatoes to ripen anyway. What seems like 6 months can only be 2 weeks. So be patient. That's another thing. Now, to ripen after the flowers have been pollinated, it's getting late in the summer. It's given that the flowers won't produce mature fruit. So go ahead and trim off those, and that just makes more sense. Okay, slow down on watering the tomato plant. Now, you've heard Brian Brown, who's with the Extension Office, Auburn University, talk about this. Watering your plants too much can actually be worse than not getting enough because you're drowning those poor things. Okay, so if you stop watering the plant, it'll send a message to ripen the fruit that's present. The same thing happens when you pinch off flowers. So reducing the amount of water that is available to the tomato plant when the plant is mature and ready to turn green channels the plant's energy into ripening off the fruit instead of using that moisture to produce more growth. Makes a ton of sense right there. Now, if the leaves start kind of wilting, They're crying to you. They are saying, I need some water. Water me, please. So do water them when that starts happening. Now, the amount of water that a tomato plant needs depends on where it is in the growth cycle. During the periods of rapid growth, the plant will wilt quickly if there is a lack of water. Again, if you're not seeing those wilting leaves, don't water them yet. Wait until they start wilting. Now, I'm not talking all the way down. I'm talking when they start, just in the very process of wilting. Then you want to do it. Now, when the temperatures are higher, that plant growth slows and the need for water also reduces. So use this to your advantage when you're trying to encourage those tomatoes to turn red so you can have your mate or sandwich. Okay, cut off any diseased leaves. If you see anything diseased, out it goes, okay? The author also says, my tomato plant had quite a few yellow leaves, so it made sense to prune so these plants can send its energy to the healthy leaves. It's a good idea to check your plant often. I check mine every day to see if there are any yellowed leaves or leaves with mold or any spots on them. You want to get rid of them, remove them as soon as possible. And if you're trying to ripen these tomatoes on the vine, be on a special lookout for diseased leaves. This will also help the plant send its energy into turning those tomatoes red instead of fighting off diseases. Remove any tiny tomatoes. Now, unless it is your little cherries, okay? So you know what to throw away and what not to throw away. So if you got your big Romas, you got the Better Boys, whatever, you want to cut those little ones off. And I know it's hard to do. I know it's pain. It's just agony to have to do that. But it's what you've got to do. These little tiny tomatoes will not have time to mature anyway. And it's going to actually benefit your other tomatoes. Okay, I've got to hurry because we've got a little time. So prune some of the leaves. We talked about that. It's not just the diseased ones that need to be pruned to encourage tomato ripening. If you see a limb and there's nothing but little, like this time of the year, and there's nothing but the little flowers on them, go ahead and get rid of that leaf so all those dozens of other tomatoes can go ahead and get mature. Let's see. If your plant is full of green, healthy leaves and you're trying to get the tomatoes to ripen, again, trimming those off is what you need to do. Okay, do you have too much fruit? And I'm getting to that stage. Pick it now. Okay, now if you have a heavy crop that's still on the vine but fall is fast approaching, not yet. We still got a little bit of time because we're in the south. Okay, so pick a few of the tomatoes if you are north of us, the Mason-Dixon line, and they're turning pink to allow the rest to ripen more quickly on the vine. Then you are most encouraged to do that. Cover the plants at night. Now, as we've learned above, and just a few minutes ago, tomato plants growing temperatures below 50 will result in tomatoes staying green. Now, if the temperature is expected to be below 50 degrees and shows no sign of warming up, you want to pick those tomatoes that are glossy green, greenish white, or starting to go pink and bring them indoors for ripening inside. That's from my northern friends. Now, if cooler temperature is expected in your area, you can cover those tomato plants to keep the plants in the ideal temp range and allow the fruit to continue ripening. I know people down here in Alabama who are still getting tomatoes. I got tomatoes last year on up to almost Thanksgiving. That's because I did this, okay, and you can too. Now, move the roots just a little. I'd be very careful now moving the roots, okay, because you could damage them, but be very careful. Let this be a last resort. Okay, so as odd as it sounds, you can, pulling slightly on the root ball, go to the bottom of the stem, okay, that's closer to the ground, and just kind of just move it, just shake it just the tiniest bit. It's like a tiny, tiny little earthquake. That's all you want to do, okay? And you can encourage it that way for the fruit to ripen. But now, please be careful doing that because I don't want you to lose your whole vine. Okay, hang plants upside down. I'm talking about a little bit later in the season. So you still got tomatoes. Go ahead and take it up, the root and the whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle, and put it in your garage. Hang it upside down. And that's going to encourage those fruits also to go ahead and turn red. You'll have tomatoes on that probably past Christmas if you'll do that. My name is Donna. Thank you so much for watching The Edge on IC Radio. I sure do appreciate you. It's the source for news and entertainment, but you're my source. And again, I thank you for doing that. You can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications, and Abundant Television found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Don't forget that podcast, netsnewsnetwork.net. Thank you for watching.